we are going to talk about the 2016 EP Teargarden by Costa Rican gothic rock band Ariel Maniki and the Black Halos. Before we get into talking about the EP itself, we must first talk about the band. Ariel Maniki is a Costa Rican multi-instrumentalist. The band has had various people in the lineup, but the most common, other than Ariel Maniki himself, is Janice Black on the keyboards, and I believe the current lineup also includes Chris Arias on the bass, at least live. Their sound, I would describe not quite as trad goth, but earlier than now, maybe, like sort of the late 80s, past that post punk phase, goth to even the 90s, but without some of the over the top spookiness that you saw maybe in the 2000s and the early 2010s, especially during the steampunk era of goth. And they are heavily rock driven, I would say, but they also have a large electronic sound to them that isn't along the lines of most cybergoth or even neo new wave bands because there are many other instruments. Now for this EP. Um, the EP starts out with an instrumental piece called "The Rise of Sakura," and Sakura is a figure in Bree mythology. The Bree people are one of the groups of indigenous people in Costa Rica, where the band is from. And like I said, it's mostly instrumental. It's very dramatic, except for at the end we do hear some chanting in Bree. And I really like this. It's a good opener. It's dramatic. It sets you up. And also, it's always cool to have indigenous Latin American stuff, especially because here in the US, we don't really know about the Breweries. The only Latin American indigenous people we really talk about are, Aztecs, Mayans, Incas, Tainos. That's it. And so it's nice for me as an American, I guess. I don't know. I'm sure they're pretty well known in Costa Rica, but cool song. Anyways, the next one is the big breakout hit Sinister Sister. Um, the one that you hear at the beginning of this video. And if you go to their Bandcamp, you can download it for free because that's how big of a hit it is. This is really spooky. It has that 90s, sort of 2000s synth rocky sound. And this is something that about this band that really strikes me is they sort of remind me. I think of them as a Costa Rican Sisters of Mercy, or even the Mission, or the Mission UK if you're in the US like me. Um, not Which doesn't always make sense to everyone, but I feel like in this case he has that sort of Wayne Husey sound to him, or even Andrew Eldritch, but not too much to a point where it's like, well, I may as well just listen to them. They do their own new thing because they are a little bit more electronic driven than that. And then next we have Patterns, which is the closest we get to that post punk sound, I guess. But it also has sort of a new wavy, mellow sound to it. It's sort of a dark, romantic piece about feeling sad. And then the next song, A Nightmare, dot, 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 is my personal favorite, but you'll have to look it up yourself. It's a very creepy, scary, romantic sounding song, and it's very waltzy sounding in its tune, which I like because I like it when there are classical music references in goth music, because I think that really ties us back to our roots with goth literature and all that, and that whole era. So that is why I really like that song, which I hope you listen to after this and like it as much as I do. And if you don't, well, you're the one who chose to listen to it, right? Anyways, then next we have The Last Prayer, which is the closest that they sound to that cybergoth sound, the uns uns uns. Not too much that those of you who are really not cybergoth fans will find it overbearing, but those of you who are cybergoth fans, I think, will really appreciate it. But it also has sort of an um old school meets new school sound, because it has a sort of a new waviness to it because it is electronic, and I almost feel like it reminds us of how, the more new wavy side of goth, how we evolved to the cyber goth sound. And then the last is Garden of Tears, just sort of a good ending piece. It's a very mellow, synth rocky piece. And that concludes us. And the reason I chose to cover this EP is because, well, it's an EP, it's 6 songs, it's short. And I think it's a really good introduction to this band because they actually have a semi extensive discography. They started back in 2013, so it's not that extensive. And they have albums which are much longer. They have a few other songs that are hits. And it seems like in the Latin American goth scene, this guy is basically a god. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'd put a few Mexican bands over him as far as popularity goes, but as far as non-Mexican Latin American goth bands go, Ariel Maniki and the Black Halos, they're pretty big, and they've not only toured in Latin America, but they've been to Prague, they've been to the UK, they've been to some bigger goth venues, and I think that this small album is a really good introduction. You can listen to it on Bandcamp or Spotify. And also you can buy it, and because there's that one song that's for free, if you have no money, you can get that one, or if you have very little money, you can get the whole album for $5. And this isn't just me advertising it for you to buy, but I'm saying if you were to buy one, this might be a good one because it's short, but also because every song on it is good and it's consistent enough that it all works together, but it's also diverse enough that you can hear a lot of different sounds. And I almost feel like this particular album is its own little wander through the different sounds of goth in a way, because we've got the dramatic instrumentals, we've got the uncy sort of song, and we have the neoclassical piece, we have the rocking goth. It's just everything that I like about goth and everything that I like about this band. I hope you liked my discussion of this album. I hope to be doing much longer and more extensive album reviews of actual albums that are much longer. But I thought this would be a good one to start with. Thank you. Bye.
It doesn't have to be this way. Sinister Sister, Sinister Sister.